In 2012, Ray, although having the most YouTube subscribers on the platform may seem like a huge accomplishment, William Johnson became a target as a result. A firm that was aggressively attempting to siphon out every last penny from both large and small YouTubers worldwide. Some of your favorite artists were victims. Ray and this company were at odds. The company was ruthless, greedy, and bordering on evil. PewDiePie damp important. The irony lies in the fact that other well-known YouTubers founded this company, called Maker Studios. You really could be among your own people. But the real boss of the Maker Studios gang was a man named Danny Zappen, a former federal prisoner who broke free to take advantage of the unexplored YouTube money source. But Ray's valiant attempts to expose the nefarious techniques of the Zappen company proved insufficient, as Maker Studios would later sell this Dream Squad to Disney for a sum exceeding $500 million. This is how they accomplished it, driven by the idea of a federal prisoner who became filthy, stinking rich at the cost of devoted YouTubers worldwide. May 2005 saw the beginning of YouTube. One of their first users was Danny Zappen, also known as Danny Diamonds. In 2000, he traveled to Los Angeles in an attempt to become an actor, but he failed. Danny was under house arrest and had nothing to do but browse the internet. Zappen needed money, so he smuggled ecstasy, got caught, and was sentenced to 2 years in jail. He said that this was because he challenged Hollywood's gatekeepers after being turned down for many parts, and they blacklisted him as a result. YouTube was like a sparkling new toy for Danny when he came out of jail, since he had started submitting videos to websites like Trash TV before he was incarcerated. Following its beta launch in May 2005, YouTube saw 30,000 unique visitors per day. By the time it was formally launched in December of the same year, it had amassed a total of 2 million daily views. The next month, 25 million people had accessed YouTube's first million-view video. In a brilliant marketing move, Nike uploaded the video of Brazilian soccer player Ronaldinho receiving his golden boots under the pseudonym Joe B, making it appear as though it was uploaded by any regular user on YouTube rather than by the multinational sneaker conglomerate. The advertising potential of the video was so promising that Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion a year after it launched. With so much money to be made, not only did established companies get involved, but also shady creators. It's no secret that creators have, and always will be the core, early YouTube material was primarily limited to memes around Club Penguin's classical music selections. Awful tutorials, more memes, Soulja Boy, but also artists who performed skits, storytime videos, news stations that covered theories of the cosmos, and the first millions of people were watching the videos posted by YouTube influencers. After YouTube launched its partner program, which pays creators a percentage of the revenue generated by ads displayed on their videos, most creators at the time saw YouTube as a fun hobby rather than a viable career path. However, some, like Danny Zappen, recognized an opportunity and shared it with a few other creators, including Shay Carl, CMG, and Lisa Donoff, her brother Ben Donovan, and other YouTubers. One evening, they all gathered for a brainstorming session that would lay the groundwork for what would eventually become Maker Studio. Originally, the idea was that, as content creators along with a few others, if we could band together, share an audience, and create an infrastructure, we could all grow and develop the business to what it is today. I made videos, but I was not a great editor, and I had no idea how to shoot things. Maker provided me with a space where all of that was taken care of, leaving me to try and be humorous. They came up with the idea for a studio to share resources and talent similar to Hollywood studios, which have been around for a century. And that working together, you can help one another, I think it was really exciting to drive audience to one another and help new talent that hadn't been established grow in audience. Danny believed that this was a revolutionary idea, but in reality, it was nothing special. Most people had no idea why we were the founding makers, and we were unable to recruit any of our actor friends to star. The most popular content on YouTube consisted of poor quality webcam videos of people with a lot of personality and simple ideas, asking why they needed a professional studio. The truth is that they didn't, and even now, 15 years later, a lot of your favorite artists are only recluses who come up with ideas for things. However, Danny had a plan, and the first step was to produce a success story to demonstrate that this could be achieved. Shane Dawson was one of the participants in the joint channel that Danny and the gang termed The Station. The firm decided to create a network of affiliated channels when Philip DeFranco and Ron Maker thought that each of those stars might be utilized to introduce followers to up-and-coming musicians. They were correct. The gorgeous females on Teen Cribs quickly became popular, receiving 60 million views. Hello MTV, how are you? I'm Ariel. Welcome to my crib. Allow me to show you around. This is my less attractive friend Jasmine. She may be extremely ugly, but don't let that get in the way of her beauty. The station set up an office where they would meet during the workday to organize, shoot, and edit the content. They also sought out additional members to join the team. Andre's selection, what a day it has been. Derek Cecil, the Fine Brothers, who reacted by switching their channel. I've been working at this bar for 2 months. And Michael Gallagher from Absolutely Sketch, Timothy Dito. The list goes on and on. Their primary material was comedy skits that were like collegiate humor, but much worse. Daddy Scene, do you guys have any Blue Caboose Barley One when the Doppelganger box comes out? Do you want to educate me? These folks are very into their rubbish beers. Can I have a dog? 99% of this content aged horribly. But at the time, the more edgy you were on YouTube, the more views you could get. Here we have 2 hots on a bot. I would never recommend that you do this. Most of their humor was extremely low-hanging fruit, such as men dressing like women and playing on racial stereotypes. Kenny to find out their opinions on the state of the recession. Danny's Appen was essentially the only person at the station not on camera, but that was only because he was preoccupied with trying to figure out how to get rid of Rich. Danny recognized that they were having financial difficulties despite having a group of about 20 creators with millions of subscribers and producing tens of millions of views each month. The partner program's ad revenue was insufficient, and in 2010, it was only open to a small number of extremely well-known creators who had to apply and be accepted. Even then, the percentage split was terrible, so the only way to increase revenue was to involve more creators. However, the studio could only accommodate so many people and offer so much room to creators. Here is where Danny's plot started. When Maker Studios established a multi-channel network, or MCN, they decided not to limit their work to the station's in-house creators. Instead, they sought out talent worldwide and signed them to the network in exchange for 20, 30, sometimes 40 or 50% of the creator's advertising revenue. It should be noted that YouTube sent the MCN the entire amount of the creator's revenue. The MCN took a cut and returned the remaining portion to the YouTuber. This is similar to your paycheck going straight to your landlord, who pays your rent and then sends you the remainder. It's difficult to understand why anyone would be willing to give up such a sizable portion of their income, but Maker did offer some genuine benefits. Firstly, Maker could instantly monetize any channel that signed up with them. Access to the partner program was still restricted at this time, and Maker had direct connections to YouTube since it was made up of the most well-known creators. Secondly, unless you had a partner network, you couldn't monetize gaming videos because video game companies would copyright claim videos containing game footage. Manufacturer even had ties to record labels. YouTube support was notoriously bad, and still kind of is, but Maker would provide you a dedicated team person to help you with any of your YouTube-related concerns. And musicians could utilize copyright music or do covers without getting claimed. By April 2011, Makers had signed 150 channels, generating 325 million views monthly. One of their signees, Ray William Johnson, was the most subscribed YouTuber on the network. You even had to sign with an MCN to create unique video thumbnails. Despite having a strong roster that included Rai and several other top artists, the Maker was still in need of funding. So Danny raised $1,524.99 from Greg Croft Partners, a venture capital business. Since all of the creators who signed up with Maker were free to be as creative as they wanted to be, you couldn't really tell there was an infrastructure around it. This is likely because it was still run by creators who were genuinely interested in making videos rather than making money. But Danny wasn't acting in the best interests of fans. At this point, fans were still unaware of how serious this operation was. It disturbed him that Maker Studios was not regarded or taken seriously by the entertainment business. He felt that the firm needed to be given legitimacy. Investors were not impressed by the poor quality of content that YouTube was renowned for. I believe that YouTube will ultimately reach the next level that Netflix is at. I believe that they'll start producing high-caliber material and programming in a way that's not merely annoying. Orange is very popular and fantastic, but the majority of YouTube videos lack quality, and I'm not criticizing them. However, I believe that once they reach a higher level, I'm not sure what your plans are, it will become its own network, similar to Netflix and all the other networks that you'll be seeing appear. Danny's goal was to establish his company as large and respectable as possible, and by the middle of 2012, he had signed over 2,000 new channels and had hundreds of millions of viewers. He had also moved from their temporary office space to a 40,000 square foot complex of buildings in Culver City, and his staff had grown to 260, including people who handle advertising sales. Their most well-known signals were still just regular YouTubers, despite business development and tech people's attempts to create animated series and shows that could be turned into movies, traditional television shows, merchandise, etc. They also established what appeared to be a very successful production studio with several departments serving their clients. When in fact it wasn't being used, Danny Zappin made a crucial mistake out of desperation. The majority of Maker's revenue came from its top few creators. The cash cow for them was Ray William Johnson. Danny went up to Ray and said, Maker needs a bigger cut of revenue from his online show equals 3. Danny then asked Rai to renegotiate their current contract 8 months before it expired. Rai claimed the terms were extremely aggressive, demanding 50% of the show's intellectual property in perpetuity, which means forever, and that they wanted 40% of my YouTube channel's AdSense revenue after production costs. Ray refused the new terms of the contract because he felt they were too harsh. They became increasingly aggressive in their negotiations, threatening to shut down his projects when I politely refused their offer because it was not in my best interest. I refused to give up my intellectual property, and they persisted in their aggressive attempts to get me to sign it over to them. In addition, Ray claimed that they would not give him any of his AdSense money because, as you may recall, all of it goes to the MCN before creator. As a result, I will continue to film here even though I don't have the necessary equipment at home. After Ray William Johnson announced his resignation, you guys are getting an episode, darn it, even if I have to film butt naked in a back alley. Ray is still a part of Maker Network, but given the recent drop in viewers of =3, it made sense for him to return to producing the show himself. Maker Studios released a petty public statement saying that having a full production staff of 12 people, including a team of writers, was no longer a viable option for =3. In an attempt to fix the matter, Ray Vi argues that he never had 12 writers and staff working on his program and that his audience was falling. The CEO then pledged to give Ray back his YouTube AdSense account. But that never happened, and they haven't tried in a reasonable manner to return it to me. Now, they're even attempting to use my AdSense account against me in exchange for me signing over all of your favorite Martian intellectual property, voiding my stock options, and signing a confidentiality agreement promising to keep the information about this hostage situation a secret. Should Ray fail to provide all the details in a piece written by new media celebrities, he also disclosed to the public that Danny Zappine was a convicted felon who was awaiting the erasure of his criminal record in order to take over as CEO of Maker. That ex-con contacted Rai at 1 in the morning, saying, "It's sad that you're preparing for war while lacking integrity and character." Shane Dawson responded to Ray's tweet about the nasty text Danny wrote him 3 years ago, saying, "Oh YouTube," which is intriguing because Shane Dawson was a member of the original studio team before he seemed to vanish. Philip DeFranco mentioned a recurring theme, seemingly implying that he and Danny Zappin had a beef. The Fine Bros also made similar insinuations. CMG appeared irritated with Phil for raising his hand. "Philly D, are you feeling all right?" "CMG, I'm just wondering how you and your guys can brush this one under the rug." This was among the first significant drama videos that YouTube had ever seen. "We're not the kind of people who will try to hold Ray William Johnson's AdSense account hostage or try to withhold money from somebody. That is definitely not our intention, Danny Diamond's intention, or Maker Studios' intention. I am proud to be a part of Maker Studios," Shay Carl said right away in defense of Danny. Over 350 individuals may now make a career from YouTube because to the work done by Maker Studios. Individuals like my sister and brother can now receive medical coverage. It's no surprise that Kasim and Shay rushed to defend Danny because they were two of the original founders who stood to gain a great deal of money from the sale of Maker Studios. Ray, Shane, Philip, and the Fine Bros, on the other hand, were not founders, but the individuals who had the most clout that made Maker famous, and at the time were bringing in the views to boost the company's portfolio. Without Danny Diamond's idea and passion for this business, countless YouTubers, including myself, would not be where they are today. In the midst of this drama, Time Warner acquired a % stake in the company for $36 million in December 2012, and other contributors like Canal, Plus, and Single also contributed $26 million, for a total of $61.4 million in capital raised for Maker. The company was now valued at several $100 million. Fans weren't sure whether to support the creators who had nothing to gain by outing Danny or support the creators who founded the company set to make millions of dollars. After successfully growing his business to become the multinational enterprise he had imagined while under house imprisonment, Danny Zappine decided to take his money and flee. Danny Zappin requested to leave the company in April 2013 in exchange for cashing out his stocks and receiving 6 months' salary, but he was willing to continue as an advisor. The board met and approved his departure, planning to replace him with Inanche, a successful businessman in his own right. However, Danny quickly changed his mind, demanding a senior executive role in order to save the company. When this demand was rejected, Mark Suster, a board member of Maker, claimed that Zappin had turned hostile and that Zappin would file a lawsuit against Maker, alleging that Zappin had become hostile. Zappin then threatened to file a lawsuit against Maker, claiming that Zappin had become hostile. The ex-convict received the same treatment that he had given Ray William Johnson 4 months prior, so I suppose bad luck struck the ex-convict. However, Danny made the correct decision, having learned from his failure as a drug dealer that you have to give up when you're at the top. Danny was aware that the MCN market had collapsed when YouTube opened its partner program to users in the top 20 countries on April 12, 2012. This meant that you could now monetize your channel without the assistance of an MCN, and that you could create custom thumbnails without the fear of copyright claims, despite YouTube's claims to the contrary. You could even create videos in your bedroom without the need for a fancy multi-million-dollar studio. In 2012, the future of YouTube was still unknown, so it was very easy for sales representatives at a big company like Maker to convince little old Patrick that he needs the backing of a major corporation. We now have the benefit of hindsight, and we know how many independent creators have built legitimate businesses through YouTube. Maker had way too many creators signed to their network to provide services and support to all of them individually. So why would a creator sign to them, especially since they were really good at lying? However, in December 2012, they managed to persuade prominent creators to become members. With that, Maker became the most subscribed and viewed YouTuber on PewDiePie, and they went on to acquire the majority of YouTube giants. Historical epic rap battles Tobuscus among them were Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and others. They soon rose to the top of the MC rankings, and by early 2014, they had signed over 55,000 creators to their network. However, major creators such as PewDiePie probably did not give the makers 10 to 40% of their ad revenue, especially in light of their negative publicity. Some creators even gave the makers 0% of their ad revenue, with the reason for the makers' deception being beyond comprehension. It was essential to MCN's business plan because they got the whole ad revenue check from YouTube and withheld a negligible percentage or none before distributing it to the creator. This makes their cash flow appear the numbers that MCN used to trick investors were views. By signing top talent, they were able to show how many views or advertisement potential they were generating. Every all-hands meeting was kicked off with the number of views they were doing 10 billion views. Insane Maker bank accounts were holding tens of hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. MCN used these numbers to convince investors that YouTube was an untapped goldmine, and it was because of their content strategies. 11 billion, 12 billion. However, the network was expanding, and we were adding more and more channels, which is why the views were increasing. In addition, since the content produced by Markiplier and PewDiePie was rife with copyright violations and couldn't be sold to other platforms, Maker officially did not own it. If you watch my previous video on Disney, you will know that in the mid-2010s, they were on fire with every aspect of their business, looking to take full control of every content medium in existence. They wanted to buy their way into YouTube. Investors had no idea what YouTube was about, but they couldn't ignore the money. In 2013, Maker generated $370 million in ad revenue, of which $70 million was from direct sales. This will change our lives and the lives of my children forever by believing in Danny Zippen's vision. In March of 2014, Disney acquired Maker Studios for $500 million with the promise of up to $950 million if they met their targets. The final amount ended up being $650 million. Original founders like CMG Lisa Nova and Shay Carl made a fortune. When the original founders started this firm, it was a modest notion. Shay Carl grew fabulously rich. He purchased a multi-million-dollar compound in Idaho and continues to upload regular vlogs of him and his family, enjoying the unprecedented fortune. Disney had to remove the rubbish after realizing they had purchased a company founded on falsehoods. However, it soon became a scheme to make the company appear much more successful than it actually was, so the investors could sell it and pay out. Disney assumed that all YouTube producers would simply merge with Disney. Thus, they didn't really do much with Maker Studios. Disney advertisements are pushed into young children's faces in every YouTube video by Marvel and Pixar marketing puppets. They could have forced that, but they didn't. Produce executives expressed dissatisfaction with the lengthy integration process as well as the lack of access to Disney's intellectual property and brand. Despite the downward trend, they continued to sign creators into predatory contracts that forced them to be trapped in failing businesses. There are countless examples of creators expressing their resentment towards Maker and all other MCN that have scammed them, but the best example can be explained by none other than Moist Critical. Maker attempted to introduce new channels such as Polaris by Maker, a gaming channel. They tried to revive the station YouTube channel with shows like Casual Sketch Song, Voyage, and Time Machine starring Timothy D. Dito and Ricky Shucks. And then Maker said, "Hey, we'll offer you this contract. It's a 60/40 split," which sounded great to me at the time. Since then, I have never been able to get in touch with Maker. Their support line is completely useless, and if your channel manager isn't there to act as a bridge, you just have no way of contacting them. It can sometimes take up to 3 months to receive a check from Maker. Last year, when my channel was disabled due to fictitious copyright claims, I was unable to contact Maker, even though I tried everything to reach him. A contract must be approved each time it attempts to renew. It shouldn't automatically renew. The one bright spot in an awful situation is that Maker Studios is incredibly lazy, disorganized, and doesn't care about any of the people in their network. They also have incredibly unfair money splits, poor communication, no help with copyright, and automatically renew contracts that creators are stuck in. Disney felt they could no longer take a chance on unreliable YouTubers, so PewDiePie intervened and rescued the entire platform. His anti-Semitic comment and Nazi images caused the creator to quickly fire him from the network. It's difficult to know if Danny knew this business would be a scam from the outset, because it began as a humble group of creators working together to achieve a common dream. Within a few years, they were holding thousands of creators in evil contracts, forging their books to make themselves look successful, and nearly destroyed YouTube as a whole. But hey, some YouTubers got filthy rich, so it's all good, right? They cut support from over 60,000 YouTubers, ERS down to just 300, rebranded Maker to Disney Digital Network, and now the EMCN business is pretty much dead.